Well, I'm arrived at the caravan. Love this place. But it does take me, as I say, about an hour and a bit to calm down from being at work. Good news from the nurse today, because she's given me permission so I can increase my dose to 10 milligram, because the 10 milligram I'm taking at work, it just isn't strong enough. The medication I'm on is literally 20 milligram in the morning. Well, that's fine, because I'm at home and it's not as intense and it's not as in your face. But the problem comes is when I take the second lot of medication, which is a 10 milligram, say 11:30, and I start work in my taxi. The medication works in two doses. It gives you a quick release. So for the first 3 hours or so, you get 30% of that 10 milligram. So I'm only getting 3 milligram of that medication for about 3.5 hours or so. And that's not too bad. It does help a little bit. But the problem comes is you only get like the 70% drip fed for the rest of the, let's say, 4 or 5 hours. So you're only getting like 7 milligram drip fed. Now that's when the problem occurs for me, because the 7 milligram is just not quite strong enough, because as work gets busier and busier as the day goes on, then the medication becomes less and less effective. Because we just get busier, the school runs all start, and as the hours pass when you're driving, it just gets quite uncomfortable at times. And by about sorry, somebody knocked on my caravan door there. So yeah, when I was on about the rest of the drip feed from the 10 milligram is only 7 milligram from the 70% of the rest of the medication, and that isn't enough, because I do struggle. So I've took my medication 10 milligram at say 11:30 in the morning, 12, half 12, half 1. I'm supposed to take my next one at half 3, but by the roundabout half 2 comes in, 2 o'clock, it starts getting very, very unpleasant and uncomfortable, because I've been driving longer, and the immediate release of that half of the medication has finished, and then the drip feed starts, and that isn't strong enough. So basically it's like, that's when your ADHD symptoms return. Your lightheadedness, you get irritable, you're just angry with everybody, and you're just not right, as we all know when the ADHD symptoms kick in. Because I went to pick up my last job today, I was going around picking up medication from the doctors, and I was just irritable. I was standing there and the receptionist wasn't there, and it was like, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, where are you? For God's sake, hurry up, hurry up. It was just tense. It was unpleasant. It just wasn't, it's just ADHD and the symptoms coming back. And anybody who knows that's been on meds will know when the ADHD symptoms return, they can feel twice as bad, because you've been used to being on meds. So therefore I have to wait, and I take my next slow release medication, 10 milligram at 3:30. So that does help a little bit, but because I'm that stressed and my ADHD is that bad, that next 10 milligram does start to work, but it takes a little bit longer, because my anxieties and my head's way up in the cloud cuckoo land. So I took my last one at 3:30, and it's now 20 to 6. And I do feel a lot calmer, but that's also because I'm not driving my taxi. It's not as intense. As you can see, it's nice and relaxing in here. But when I get in from the taxi into the caravan, it can take a good hour to climatise or deregulate. Now what I mean by that is your mind's got to like adjust, because you've been thump in your taxi, you've been concentrating, you've been like chatting away, keeping an eye out in every conceivable direction for traffic. It's very mentally intense, taxi driving, especially when you're on titration. It can be quite unpleasant. So you get that worked up, by finishing time by 4 o'clock, you can sort of, it takes you an hour to sort of come down and unwind. So, but I'm getting there. I do feel a lot better. Be taking me next 10 milligram at 7:30, and of course, got the candles on. Well, I will be putting the candles on, and that helps me to relax as well. But yeah, it's basically when I'm at home, the 20 milligram tablet is great. It's a bit like you've got a little tiny cut on your finger. It's a bit stingy, and let's say you take a paracetamol and it sorts the pain out. You don't feel it. Or you've got a very mild headache, you take a paracetamol and it gets rid of it. And it's worked and it's great. Now when I'm at work, basically, instead of having a headache, I've got two really big abscesses on my teeth. One there and one there. And the pain's horrific. That paracetamol will no longer be effective because the pain is a lot more worse. And what I mean by that is, speaking in metaphor, is the fact like work is more intense. The 10 milligram really doesn't quite do it. It doesn't do it for us at all to numb the ADHD. But when I'm at home, the 10 milligrams fine, but because the intensity isn't there. So I'm into titration for about sort of 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks. And it's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a bit of time to get used to. So I'll do another blog report, how I'm feeling later on when the candles are on, but I am feeling a lot better.